Jeff King notes that independent films depart from Hollywood filmmaking in making greater claims to verisimilitude/realism. Verisimilitude is perhaps one of the most distinguishable facets of American independent cinema, where many of the films within the label often tell a story within and about social reality and social issues. Where directors have a personal vision approaching the film, many indies take part in a form of social realism on screen, showcasing a medium for underrepresented groups and social issues not found within the morally constricted narratives of conventional Hollywood cinema. One filmmaker who exemplifies this is Sean Baker, with many regarding him and his films as a significant part of the modern American independent canon. This video essay explores his engagement with verisimilitude and indie techniques through his films Tangerine and The Florida Project, reflecting the expressive nature of independence through films as cinematic space for marginalized groups and distinct formal style. Both of these films are distinct in their characters, locales, and subject matter, yet are homogeneous in the way Baker implements these independent techniques. Firstly, we need to identify what exactly verisimilitude is. Verisimilitude refers to the degree in which a film appears to be true to reality or the internal logic of the film itself. In Baker's case, verisimilitude is distinguished as more verite, utilizing this naturalistic and authentic approach to politicize his stories and enhance the very real social issues of his films. Firstly, Baker's 2015 film Tangerine is one of his defining independent films, exemplifying the formal verisimilitudes and cinematic representation often associated with the label. The film follows two transgender sex workers, Alexandra and Cinderella, who traverse the dank yet subtly beautiful landscapes of Hollywood and their workings within the red light district. Tangerine is distinct in its presentation in two ways. More explicitly, the film adopts a unique aesthetic through being the first high-profile film to adopt iPhone filmmaking and coupling this with digitized anamorphic lens. In addition, the film kept to a tight $100,000 budget, and this is evident through the film's DIY philosophy, using naturalistic locales, improvised filmmaking, and a sense of personal cinematography. Baker's use of DIY filmmaking in the contemporary cinematic landscape speaks to Sue Marcus's definition that independent filmmaking consists of low-budget projects with a strong personal vision. This idea of a strong personal vision, importantly, manifests in Baker's creation of viable cinematic space for transgender audiences. As critic David Edelstein mentions, Tangerine as the film shot on an iPhone is incredibly reductive, failing to acknowledge the film's emotional and narrative appeal. While Baker does explicitly reflect the industrial framework and budgetary constrictions often associated with independence, Jeff King notes that films within the label can also offer a cinematic space for social, political, or ideological perspectives. In Tangerine's case, Baker allows for a nuanced space of transgender representation.
Oh, girl, what's up? Cindy! Oh, my God! So how was it, bitch? Tell me the tea. Did you get a lot of trade up in there or what?
His radical treatment of this group avoids essentializing and stereotyping his characters, instead allowing a sense of authentic reality. As McKinley Green asserts, the shooting of the film on an iPhone asks audiences to identify with an unconventional viewpoint. Evidently, Baker dispenses with the protagonist's occupations as prostitutes, instead emphasizing their struggles of identity, resilience, and tenacity.
It can be a cruel place.
Yes, it is cruel. God gave me a penis.
Tangerine's politicized form is also facilitated by the grainy, almost ugly iPhone aesthetic, and coupled with the dank underbelly setting, creates a sense of intimacy and visual storytelling for the protagonists. He asserts that the style allowed a unique look, which is something that we were trying to achieve, because the subject matter is kind of different. Through this, we can understand Baker's camera as not only a budgetary constriction, but a tool in shaping a new form of verisimilitude. The politicized nature of the film, through representation of transgender struggles and space, is notably informed by how aesthetically contrasting it is to any typical buddy comedy. As a result, Baker's formal aesthetics directly inform his creation of transgender cinematic space. In placing queer bodies within the framework of a conventional narrative and creating a highly distinct aesthetic through DIY filmmaking, Tangerine allows a nuanced and authoritative space for queer and transgender audiences, therefore operating in the independent canon through a political dimension.
Security! Why? Moody!
Following Tangerine, Baker directed 2017's The Florida Project, centering around a 6-year-old girl Moonee and her experiences with living in an outskirt motel in the shadow of Disney World. Much like Tangerine, the film operates through exploring the experiences of those at the boundaries of society, utilizing its distinct verisimilitude for a thematically unique and emotional audience experience. Despite the bleak exploration of poverty in the film, the aesthetic and verisimilitude are often in stark contrast to the subject matter, which all lends to the protagonist's own perspective in the film. For one, Baker employed neo-realist techniques in his production of the film, filming entirely in a real motel and also employing a verite documentarian approach with the episodic nature of the film. Evidently, much of the film lacks a three-act structure, and instead is framed as more documentarian through capturing the lives of the motel inhabitants in an objective manner. Working with DOP Alex Zabe, Baker also intentionally incorporates warmer, pastel, and saturated looks to the bleak locales he is working with. He says, quote, "I wanted audience to feel that subconsciously they were returning to their youth and connecting with these characters." Evidently, the unique verisimilitude Baker presents is one that is glossed in fantasy, dreamlike imagery, and simultaneously grounded in social realism. As an audience, we are constantly within the naive mindset of Mooney and perceive her environment in the same fashion that she does.
That one over there. The bull. Scooty, will you marry me? Run, not right now. You may kiss the bride. Beer. Party! Beer. Oh my gosh.
Resultingly, Baker's pastel colors and stunning imagery not only culminates in a beautifully visual experience, but a directly politicized one. Complementing this with the lack of non-diegetic music work and the more documentarian, observatory approach, the Florida Project directly uses these techniques to grant a sense of authenticity and truth to the subject matter. In examining the Florida Project in relation to its verisimilitude and narrative perspective, Baker grants a political dimension in illuminating the struggles of marginalized Americans. Sean Baker's films are no doubt a part of the modern American independent canon, reflecting the label's tendency for unique aesthetics and minority representation. Through looking at Tangerine and the Florida Project and their distinct verisimilitudes, Baker reflects the unique and unconventional storytelling that often characterize American independent films. Clearly, Baker's neo-realist techniques interplay with this thematic depth, with the verisimilitude speaking to a social realism and truth not found in a more artificially produced Hollywood narrative.